Chapter 11. Into the World Between Worlds. You must learn to be strong. Oh, I messed it up. You must learn to be strong in the dark as well as in the day, else you'll always be only half brave. George MacDonald, The Day Boy and the Night Girl. Check out George MacDonald. What have you done with her? We're going to start easy, but it's going to get rough. Farley had frizz in his brownish hair, and he had fire in his eyes, and he seemed human. But somehow he was worse than Buford, who stood behind like an automated thing, snickering at intervals, as though all of existence were some big joke. In the center of the kitchen were Carl and Ethan, in wooden chairs side by side and cuffed. Each man had his hands in his lap. Buford was behind them, and as yet blows had not been delivered. The table had been put on its side and moved out of the way to free up space. Farley continued his introduction. So I'm just going to ask, what have you done with the body? Your part of Annie is alive, but she is not here, Carl said. Where is she? If I tell you, you will not believe. But if you do believe me, this will be worse. Buford backhanded Carl enough it lifted the chair, but then he caught the chair and grounded it again. Carl's eyes darkened, but he made no sound. Ethan was in a place where he would shift between catatonia and pure panic. It's true, as far as I know, it's true. Don't hit me. I just saw her get sucked into the tube. That's all we know. Farley's eyes narrowed. Sucked into the tube. What kind of tube? This big, huge, deep-sounding tube with green and purple lights. Reminded me of, remember when there was cameras you had to put legit film into for a picture? It was like a really long film canister like that. Had that little lip at the end, but like enclosed, like a circle around a spiral. But it also looked like a Martian ship, no cap, like a flying saucer, just sucked her right up. And then it come after us, and we got away, but it was a big tube. It was a disc, and it was weird. And that's what happened. Carl looked at Ethan significantly, then said, It is as he said. He has say all he know. He will be no more use to you. Let me go, will you? I'm just here to work on computers. I do IT. I don't know anything about these things. I don't even know if I saw that girl. Maybe I didn't see her at all. Maybe I was drugged, you know? Maybe your girl roofied my drink at the casino. Maybe that's... Rufus used another backhand as external punctuation on Ethan's rambling. Ethan could barely stifle a whimper. Where's the spot? Farley looked at Carl. What spot? The nexus point, where the portal is. They don't just show up anywhere. I know that. You know that. But you don't know what's behind one. No, it's not in the pact. But then this portal is independent of the pact. Nobody had to show it to me from their ranks. So, you know so much. Don't you know why that's important? Show me the portal. You found it, Carl said. The rock behind the mirror. I broke the glass coming back. In the basement. Carl nodded. Long story short, Farley rejoined, English is not your first language, is it, Ivan? I'll give it to you on pronunciation. Look, I don't have time for this. Since Roswell, we know. Since then, we've known they skip dimensions like teenagers sneaking into movies without a ticket. Hell, a ship crashed around these parts once. Nobody heard about it. Why didn't they hear about it? Us. When he said this, Carl seemed to grow even one more shade darker, if that were possible, but he said nothing. Farley didn't notice. Where they go when they skip dimensions, that's a mystery. But we've seen the energy signature coming from this house. It took a while to pinpoint it. You're sporadic as hell when you use it, but we've seen it. And we have reason to believe it's not from them. Who are they, fam? Ethan didn't mean to say anything. His mouth sometimes did that to him. The aliens, you idiot, replied Farley. The ones you just described. They are not from some other planet or some strange evolution, Carl interjected. What they are is imps, demons, devils. They use you like a puppet, like you use him. Here Carl gestured to Buford with his head. We are made, we do not evolve, so are they, but they are not like us. Well, then surely you can see why I don't want them to have her, Farley said flatly. Me either, put in Ethan. Buford raised a hand and he flinched. If you go, they will take you. And that is that, Carl explained. Says you, but we happen to know a few things you don't. A snorting sound came from Carl's head. Please, you make a deal in the desert in the 40s. The UFO, you prayed. No, you summoned it. Rituals. You make a deal. They give tech. You give people. Beads for sacred land. Sometimes you give livestock. This is sacred land. Technology is beads. This is why you still hide. This is why it is top secret. The USA made a deal with the devil, but called it aliens. Of course, you're not the only country to do so. Tech advances that have helped bring peace to the world from extraterrestrial allies is hardly a deal with the devil in my estimation. Peace? Now? We have more war than before our grandparents, you fool. And they are not your allies. And they are not aliens. They are local. This just not the plane, they are local too. Like the snake make of a million little snakes hiding in a hole in the house. This is the home of the snake, even though it is not the snake's house, you see? They do not come from Orion or Pleiades, except in a superpositional way, perhaps. There's a reason they keep religious types out of our order, Farley cut him off. You get too clouded by your prejudices to open your minds, and it keeps you from being all that you could. It holds us all back. No wonder we have to keep key things secret. It's no secret. It goes to Nimrod. It is just a soul pyramid scheme, Carl shot back. What can you do to prove it, said Farley. That is not for me to... You know how to reach him. You know how to get that other plane in your plane. You know how to get it here, old man. Maybe, maybe not. I do know this. You don't need him. He indicated Ethan. You keep saying that, mused Farley. You really don't need me, Ethan agreed. I'm just a computer nerd. I do IT. Buford used his silencing technique. Show me this portal, Carl. It is not up to me, Carl shrugged. What do you mean it's not up to you? Look, the cat opens. Farley appeared as though he wanted to laugh, but then another expression came over him, and abruptly he had to sit down astonished. Finally he looked up, all hint of guile and sarcasm gone. He said, It's a Baba Yaga cat. Carl had an astonished expression now. Perhaps it was contagious. Here was a variable he had not considered. They knew about the phenomenon as related to cats, somehow. Pause in the narrative. That's not Silent Hill if you're hearing that siren or a bomb. Every Tuesday at noon they run that siren here in Lead. So that's what that is. Farley walked over to the bathroom and opened the door. Slinky trotted out, then stopped when she saw him, hissed, and sprinted through his legs past Carl, Ethan, and even past Buford in the kitchen, then somewhere into Carl's bedroom where she became invisible. Farley's eyes followed the feline. Black, long of hair, short of leg. It really is a Baba Yaga cat. And he's angry, ain't he? She, and yes, livid, Carl confirmed. So, you do have a portal. They are real. Excellent. Now what you're gonna do, Carl and Ethan, if that is your name, is you two are gonna get that cat to open it. Buford, uncuff him, bring him downstairs. Farley was already walking into the bedroom where he spied the leash that had never been unhooked since Slinky was unceremoniously incarcerated in the bathroom. The leash was leaking out from under the bed. He pulled, and out came the cat, dragging a small area rug after her. She was not happy about the situation, but couldn't do much to resist. By the time Farley had her untangled from the rug, Buford had escorted Carl and Ethan down to the basement. Now Farley followed with the cat, holding her by the scruff of the neck as she struggled along. He carefully backed down the stairs, then put the cat in Carl's hands, where he stood beside Ethan. Buford held them both by the neck. Farley said, "Make her do it." "I can tell you, right now, she will not." "Try." Carl shrugged and placed the cat in front of the stone wall. She looked up at him, then at the wall, then turned and decided to walk back toward the stairs out of the basement. "No, Slinky," Carl said, turned her around and got her to stand in front of the wall again. She looked over her shoulder and made an unhappy noise. "She would like a snack, maybe," Carl said. "Fine, get her a snack." Carl fished some beef jerky out of his back pocket and gave the treat to Slinky. She ate it and did nothing. "Maybe she doesn't like that part of the wall," Farley said. "No, it is not about the liking. There are just some spots where the cat can make the portal. Only special spots. There are many, but they are not in all places. If there is a spot, she can open it, just as she can purr. But notice, she does not purr either. You see, she is not in good mood. She is not happy to be put in bathroom and grabbed by strangers." "So what if she's happy? Make her open the door." Farley pointed at the cat and had an angry look on his face. "She's holding grudge. She will not shift when holding a grudge." Ethan didn't mean to say the next thing. It just popped out. "What if you scared her or threw her at the wall like when we—" "Ethan!" Carl said. Farley laughed. "Ha! See, old man, I knew we needed to keep this guy around. He doesn't even know what he knows." And then, without hesitating, Farley grabbed the cat in a tight hold. She made unhappy noises, but was not strong enough to resist. "If you force her, she will hold a grudge. Who cares? She got a grudge now. If she can be forced once, she'll be forced again. She will run away and you will never find her, and then you may be stuck where you are. That's why you're here, old fart. Alrighty, let's play scaredy cat." Boo! Farley got right in the cat's face and yelled at her. She spasmed, she hissed, she spit in a percussive way and scratched his cheek, but she didn't shift. He didn't seem to notice, already looking at the rocky alcove where the portal should have been. Nothing. The cat was struggling harder now, but Farley grabbed her around the scruff of the neck again. "I see. But can you fly?" And he chucked the cat at the wall. This, unfortunately, worked quite well. Slinky was midair toward the stone area, and as she approached, legs automatically maneuvering around, her reflexes kicked in, and the wall turned from stoned to a twilight rift leading into another realm. The curious part of this was that Slinky immediately followed through the portal and hung in the air, totally suspended. They could see her drifting languidly to the ground, but in such a leisurely way that it would take minutes, like a slow-motion camera capturing hundreds of thousands of frames per second. Farley stood with his mouth open, and behind their necks, Ethan and Carl felt Buford's hands. Farley stood with his mouth open, and behind their necks, Ethan and Carl felt Buford's hands relax. Carl took it as an opportunity and knocked into Buford, bowling him into the battery array where sparks immediately flew, cutting light throughout the house except that which came from the portal. He would have made it up the stairs, but a percussive bang signaled a cameo from Farley's firearm. Where it spit, wood chips sprang from the steep stairs. Carl put his hands up slowly and backed down. Ethan hadn't moved. "Nice try, old-timer," said Farley. "Now get over here. You're going in ahead of us." "If we go, I should have the map. This is what I go to get, to help find the girl." "Okay, I got an idea." Farley aimed the gun at the cat where she floated through the portal. "Will this kill the cat through the rift?" Carl nodded, if in silhouette. "Okay then, insurance. Buford, come hold this. Old man, you got an escort. Let's go. Buford, if anybody pulls any funny business, turn that cat into slow-mo lasagna." Buford nodded and grunted. Farley escorted Carl into his bedroom. Buford stared at the cat, who fell slowly to the ground. "I've heard of this Baba Yaga cat," he said. "First I've heard of it," said Ethan. "In the old days, they drove 'em through the walls. Very old days. Before there was industry." "So you can speak on your own." Buford looked his way briefly, a bald albino jack-o'-lantern in the light from the portal. "I can do many things," he said, and began to snicker and giggle in a way that was unsettling. Carl returned down the stairs first, Farley following after. "Okay," Farley said. "You two follow the cat. Don't try anything funny. We're behind, and faster." Carl looked at Ethan and winked so briefly it was hard to see. They stepped through, and Carl caught Slinky. Almost simultaneously, Buford and Farley followed, momentarily stunned at the twilight deep green landscape and the thickened air. The cat was growling and hissing. Carl put her down quickly and stroked her fur, making calming noises. Farley regained himself. "Buford, keep the gun on them and toss out a ball." Buford nodded and pulled a little black sphere from his pocket. He pressed a button on it, and a deep thrumming sound came and went very fast. Farley collapsed his hands together, looking around with the ghost of a smile as he said, "All right, boys, show me where you hit her." "This way," said Carl, and they began to walk down the path. They made it 2 steps before a deep bass sound made a reply to what came from the ball Buford had thrown. This announced the presence of a cylinder. It came like a circle, expanding from a point until it was centered over them and revealed its elongated cylindrical shape. Farley laughed aloud. "You see, old-timer, I told you I knew some things you didn't." His smile was immediately gone. The cylinder was aiming a green and violet ray at Farley, who began to immediately rise up from the ground. He was shocked, but not into silence. He quickly commenced to expletives, ending his appeal with, "We have the pact! The pact!" It didn't matter. He was sucked right up into that vessel. Buford's wide pupils stared at the ship, and his arms went slack, and the gun dribbled out of his hands, and like a robot, broken, he began to issue a terrible, otherworldly racket from his mouth, chest out, head skyward. A dark black cloud of non-light came from his lips and eyes. He began to float. The vessel, it sucked him in, but he floated all on his own. Finally, he followed the same violet-green trajectory as Farley on the beam from the cylinder. "Come on!" Carl said, snatched the pistol from where it had been dropped, and gathered the cat as fast as he could. "Okay, what now?" Ethan sounded terrified. "I have a plan. Keep up, keep up. Good job trying to weasel out of it and get away. I bought it. Sorry. I meant every word of it. No act, fam. Well, it made sure they were going to bring you along. I wish you had not given the cat secret, but it may save us injury. Somehow they knew of Baba Yaga cats. This raises questions I have had, but I am glad, Ethan. You must have also meant what you said about God, because... Ethan!" Carl turned. "Jesus!" Ethan screamed, finally finding the breath to do so after the shock of the beam, but then he was too terrified to move. A coruscating illumination flickering between indigo and emerald held him, and he was suspended halfway to the sky. Carl stopped and put down the cat, watching in horror as the young man disappeared into the cylinder, and the cylinder began to shoot back across the endless sea. "God save him!" he cried. "I'm sorry, boy." The cat trotted down the path with a hiss over her shoulder, then stopped, began doing that funky abdominal move cats do when they get the urge to regurge, and abruptly left a mound of half-digested beef jerky among the grasses of the world between worlds. The portal would be closed for at least 12 hours now, maybe longer. A year in the realm of man. Carl sighed and looked at the sky. He called out loudly, "You told me to get a lodger!" Everything was still. Carl turned his gaze to the ground, said, "A whole year," and went to retrieve his animal. Then came a sound, a deep sound, like the bass engine of the great vessel skipping, missing a cycle of some sort. It blinked in and out of visibility, then was gone. Then the cylinder came back for perhaps several minutes, and was suddenly gone again. Carl stood staring. Every minute was a day here. But there was some mystery to unravel. The vessels he had seen come and go, he'd seen them come and go. They came and went. And if they transitioned elsewhere, there wasn't anything like the ship blinking in and out of existence like it just had. Now he was watching more intently. Several more minutes went by. He didn't know how long. Then there was another deep, tremulous reverberation to announce the vessel, and it came back into existence in the middle of the sky, dripping water as though it had been to sea. It soon altered course and turned back, coming right for Carl where he stood. He'd never seen one deviate like that. They always went a single direction and fast. Carl squared his shoulders and began to howl, strongly suspecting evil would come, but he was wrong. Another deep bass sound echoed across the entire area. The ship shot several hundred feet past him, coming near the top of the hill. Then it came to a total stop. All the atmosphere was abruptly sucked out of the area, kicking up a terrible wind. The whole cylinder, a thing the size of a skyscraper, suddenly fell straight into the hillside. "This is new," Carl observed. The ground gave under the cylinder, and it was too steep for the behemoth to come to rest, so it began to do what cylinders tend to do on hillsides: roll. And it was coming right for Carl. He ran after the cat and grabbed her by the leash, then hugged her to him and kept going as fast as his legs would take him. He missed becoming two-dimensional by about 10 feet, maybe less. The cylinder would skip as it rolled because it was not a perfect cylinder. There were walks around, and it had that film canister shape. This caused it to continue its trek with notable violence until it finally came to the beach, where it scuffed rocks and made a terrible noise before splashing into the ocean, eventually coming to rest some distance from the shore and only partially submerged. There was another deep sound that was staccato and seemed to be broken. Then a white light flickered in the middle of the cylinder object. Then a white light flickered in the middle of the cylindrical object facing the sky, became a ball that resembled St. Elmo's fire and shot into the twilight, revealing what looked like some sort of circular hatch in its absence. In a matter of seconds, Ethan was there, bleeding from several places and shaken, but alive. He crawled from the hatch and trembled, finally losing energy and coming to rest on the top of the cylinder with his arms and his legs splayed out. He continued to shake, and in another moment Carl realized it wasn't just Ethan. The ship itself was trembling. "Ethan, stay where you are!" Carl yelled. He put the cat down and waded out into the water. Ethan seemed to see him where he was on the outside of the cylinder. "Howdy, fam," he said weakly, then slipped and fell 30, 40 feet down the side of the vessel into the sea. Carl made it there moments later and prevented the young man from drowning. He dragged Ethan to shore, where he laid him on the rocky beach. He'd scarcely done so when a great deep noise indicated further activity from the felled cylinder. Looking back over his shoulder, Carl saw it split. The ship essentially decentralized, became like vertebra in a spine, or the segments of a snake. Each portion of the massive cylinder made a bass sound and lifted into the air, headed in a straight line across the sea and over the horizon. Carl had never seen a cylinder become segments like that. What had happened? Ethan took in a ragged breath, drawing Carl's attention. The cat came out and sniffed the soaking hair of Carl Marlborough's unconscious lodger, showing him how she impersonated sandpaper with her tongue by dragging it across his forehead. Ethan blinked. Carl said, What happened?" "You're Carl. I remember you," said Ethan. And Carl noticed abruptly that the young man had somehow grown a beard.